Alrighty, guys, we are back again with this month's Moonkin Monthly special edition, joined by World First Raiders, World First Raider, and Soreanan, and myself. Alrighty.
Oh.
So, yeah, this month I decided that it was probably a good idea to get Sang, Gape, and Sore on here together and talk about various things, including the Race to World First, Ny'alotha, corruption, just run the whole gambit, see what interesting things we could get talking about this month. Also, we're going to talk about mounts a little bit too, because Sang loves a good mount.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I guess let's start with introductions. Sang, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're in on Ny'alotha, but I feel like you're fairly not well known, right?
What do you mean? I'm known.
Are
I'm,
you?
like, decently known by, I don't know, random people. Am I known for, I'm not involved in a lot of stuff, so.
I mean, you do a lot of very important work, such as I would say you're probably the most knowledgeable about horrific visions in the world. Probably also the most knowledgeable about island expeditions in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've been the kind of guy that does the stuff that no one else does and figures stuff out. Basically I don't know, master of irrelevant content, but also relevant. Just, I spend a lot of time PTR testing stuff.
Master of systems, yeah. Alrighty, we also have the artist formerly known as Gapezilla, renamed to Goop.
That's yep, that's me.
How is actually remaking your character for this tier?
Well, I don't know. It's a little weird for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of fun. Grinding essences is never fun. I don't think there's a fucking soul on the planet. Actually, I think I know one guy who likes grinding essences and is really proud of it. That guy's not getting named.
Is that somebody in your guild?
No, it's some freak on Twitter.
I think Sor knows who it is. Sor's smiling.
Yeah. Anyway, that guy's not important. I don't know. Grinding essences kind of sucked again, but I had just reached the point when I got banned where my guys were completely done with everything. Like, finished my neck, all the essences, and then it's just like, oh, gotta go again. Fuck.
Like even rank 4 on everything? Or is it?
I was rank 4 on like half of them, and I probably would have gotten bored enough and finished all of them, but like, yeah, I could have just stopped and played other games for 2 months before progression instead of having to grind literally everything again.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. It's whatever. It's not that bad. I don't actually like completely hate world quests. I mean, while everyone was getting world first, I was busy making sure I had the highest neck in the guild, so you know what it is.
Cool. Alrighty, Sornan. Welcome back. How was your
Hi.
day?
It's good. I woke up.
You still drunk?
Nope.
Oh.
I laid in
Dude,
bed for
he
like an
was
hour and a half.
so drunk last night.
Yes, he was.
I woke up and I stayed in bed for like another hour and a half and just didn't want to move. It was a good time.
Alright, so let's start with the young blood. How are you guys feeling post-win? Gape, Sornan. Obviously, this is a bit interesting for you guys since it's your first tier being in limit. Sor, how was the whole thing? Like, how was the whole
my first year
experience?
being limit? I was here last year.
Yeah, he was in for 8 bosses last year.
Were
What
you
the
in
hell?
really?
I got to play last year.
Yep.
Oh, were you at? I don't know why I thought you weren't.
I can't believe you forgot.
I don't know.
Holy shit, I'm an idiot.
He would have been in an Azshara, but I think he just like he
I
was
wasn't
gonna
on
be gone.
Azshara.
Well, you were. I think. You said,
Yep. See, everyone forgets.
Jesus.
yeah, dude.
Alright, apparently both Sang and I forgot how long Sor's been in limit for.
Oh no, I know he's been there. I meant that I thought that like you were going to be gone.
Yeah. There were like
So-
3 days I wasn't in on Azshara, and it was because I had to go back to work the second week and I missed the Friday of the second week.
Oh, that's right. I
And
I
then
did remember that.
I ended up just coming back in anyway because like, hey, Moonkin's really good on this fight.
Yeah, Moonkin was fairly good on Azshara. So how is this tier compared to last? Obviously, you weren't in London for last year because you had to go to work. But how is it being in Dallas?
It was good. It was a really cool experience getting to come down here and do everything. So,
Being live from the pit.
yep.
And of course,
The
Gabe, this
pit.
is actually your first tier, being in Limit.
Yar.
How's the package deal?
Oh, you know. Not rating in this guild is a ton of fun. It's like definitely the most interesting rating experience I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, going from Encore to Limit was not being in on every single fight a bit weird.
Oh, super. I mean, when you've been playing since MoP and you haven't been benched on literally a single fight, and you've played every raid tier, and then to like join this guild and it's 30-man roster and like everyone is sick, so you're just not going to be in if like your class isn't needed, or especially on the earlier bosses where you're like the first like 8 bosses or something, comp was done beforehand for loot, not to like kill the bosses. You go for loot first, and then if the boss looks like it's a little hard, then you like maybe sub out some of the worst classes to optimize. But the loot in this raid isn't great on most of the bosses, like
Dude, what
mastery garbage gear. So
what is all the loot on these bosses?
me.
It's so bad. Like the whole tier's loot is just terrible. I don't even understand.
I don't know, man. That's above my pay grade, I guess. It's hard to design gear that doesn't have fucking mastery on it when not a single class in the game wants mastery. What?
Yes, I love me and all my mastery gear. Already sang the veteran of Limit. Back again.
Hi.
Dude, okay. So for those who don't know, so I went and saw Sang after Carapace, and this dude is looking at me with the biggest grin on his face, rubbing his hands together, like, I'm gonna get on N'Zoth for the mount. And that's the only thing he says to me.
That's completely wrong, but alright.
Dude, you can't say that's completely wrong. That's 100% true.
Wrong.
How are you feeling about this post one? Because you've been in Limit since right after Uldir, right?
Yeah, right after Oldera recruited.
Poached.
Yeah, I guess. Basically the same thing.
How is being in Dallas instead of London for you?
Oh, this is I mean, this has been a really nice experience. Just kind of like, I mean, both places are really nice. This is, I think, just a lot more cool stuff, definitely, and like, I don't know, it just seems a lot nicer for sure in terms of just stuff available. Kind of, it's a nice place, and overall, just definitely even more exciting.
Yeah, no,
Again, not saying anything bad about the other places. Both were really fucking exciting and really good people and everything.
yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. This whole venue and event has been pretty fucking badass.
Woo!
Woo! All right, so we gotta talk about corruption.
I love corruption.
The maker of whether or not you're in on
Wow.
Prague. So having done a full tier of progression with corruption, would you guys change how it functions realistically? Because it's a bit weird, especially early on. For me, I would probably have corruption on every single piece of loot, but do you guys feel differently about it?
It just needs to be more accessible. That's the entire issue of it. Is that it's rare, it's hard to acquire, and the fact that there's so much RNG getting it is just bad. The system as a whole isn't bad. It's just acquiring and is awful.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Plus, like, the fact that you get, like, none from Mythic Plus is so random to me. Like, you get some out of your weekly box, but, like, from end of dungeon rewards, I feel like it's so infrequent.
It's super weird for sure. I I don't know. I did some keys on PTR and it seemed like the drop rate like sucked, and I thought for sure that they were gonna tune it up for live because I mean that's like the whole patch. And I guess their idea, the same flawed idea they've had with Mythic Plus for most of the expansion, where like, oh, it's infinitely repeatable, so like the rewards have to be shitty baseline or something. But it's like, I don't know, man. If corruption wasn't as big of a deal as it is, like if all corruption was tuned like 75% lower or something, then I think it would be acceptable.
Uh-huh.
The only way to get guaranteed corruption is out of 2 boxes every week, and other than that, like you'll get a few pieces per raid clear, and then it takes infinite Mythic Plus for a single person in your group to get a single corrupted piece. It's just so shitty.
I mean, it's even weird because like our best trait's Gushing Wound, and that's a 1 out of 50 drop rate on corruption pieces. And like,
Yeah. I don't know why that one in particular. Well, I have an idea why it's tuned the way it is. It's like there's only a single tier of it. It's super rare, but it only being 15 corruption, like end game, you're gonna have a budget way higher than that. So it being like the best bang for your buck isn't necessarily gonna matter in the long run. It only matters like right now.
oh
And,
yeah.
for us being in a guild where, the tier's over week 2, it's like, okay, like corruption really sucks, but I think for guilds that are gonna take like, 10 weeks to progress a tier or whatever, it should all even out. And corruption will probably work fine for them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And how are BOEs shaping up? Saying, do you want to field this one? Because like obviously you guys spent an unholy amount of gold on BOEs.
Yeah, I mean, I think like like in some situations, like the BOEs are really nice for having the options there, in case, because again, it's so rare, and the BOEs are like available to like kind of fill in slots or provide that for people that don't get what they need to out of their boxes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the having those BOEs is kind of like they're really powerful and insane whatnot, and so you have to deal with just not having access to those freely is really 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 powerful.
What is Kingfly doing?
Yeah, he's just behind me talking to me. No
Just
respect for
vibing.
what's going on. Yeah. I'm just being interviewed, and he's just here like, "What are you doing?" in front of the camera.
Yeah, you're part of the Team Heat Player Lounge or whatever it's called.
But yeah, no, I mean, my situation, like, I feel very opinionated. Like, the beers are really powerful, just because. I mean, if it weren't for them, I would just like my character would have just not existed this entire tier because of just how powerful corruption is. It would definitely been like a harder time in general to get our mages the stuff they needed and all,
Yeah, yeah.
and it would have just come down to just like completely random.
Because you got the Suck Boy, right? You got the Twisted Appendage on a couple of your pieces, right?
I had to just, well, like all the corruption that I looted manually was literally the worst corruption possible.
Oh,
Like I actually didn't get a single piece. I got literally Glimpse of Clarity and Ineffable Truth like 3 times, and then the Mythic Plus round I got Void Ritual on a ring, and I just cleansed that. And that's the corruption I actually looted. Like the only piece I looted were I think like Mastery Proc. No, that was it. It was like,
Mastery Proc is bad too.
yeah, I mean, it was the only item I got. So, like, if it weren't for BOEs, I
It's
wouldn't have
not
had anything.
bad.
Mastery Proc's like one of our best ones. What do you mean?
It's okay. It's terrible for me whenever I also have Mastery from sources on my gear as well. So I just have infinite amounts of Mastery.
Playing with Master
fine.
Proc is fun. Big Star Surges, bang bang.
True. Did any of you guys actually loot good corruption, or are you guys all in the?
Yo,
What did you get?
We're gonna
let's see, Heroic
about everything good.
Rathion. Yeah, first Heroic Week, Heroic Rathion looted tier 3 Infinite Stars. That was kind of nice.
Back when everybody thought it was good. Wait, hold on. I didn't think you were allowed to turn on lights in that room.
Somebody turned it off. Holy fuck, man.
Okay, so tier 3 infinite stars.
Anyway, yeah. Tier 3 Infinite Stars. Got a Gushing Wound ring. It's a really shitty ring, but got it off of Shad Har, I think.
Oh,
Is
so
that
is
his
that the
name?
versatility mastery one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Or
Look at
Crit
him complaining about the
Mastery.
stats on it.
I think it's Crit Mastery, but yeah. Gushing Wound is so insane that you don't really care about the stats. It was just super weird because the Rathian pants are also like Mastery verse. So like coming out of week 1, I had insane corruptions, but I had like 1500 Mastery. I was
That's what you hope for, honestly.
yeah, and then I got like there weren't a lot of pickings for BOE rings because all the warlocks and mages took the good shit. So I got like a mastery proc ring, but after playing with it, like I actually really like the mastery proc. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not super hot on it, but yeah. It's okay if you don't have like a ton of mastery. If you have a lot, then it's like really bad though.
Yeah, for some reason they all passed up on the gushing wound offhand though, so I yoinked that shit real quick. I was
What-
like, yo, give me a
Wait,
second gush.
do you have 2 gushing wound pieces?
Yar.
What the hell?
This guy, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, this guy.
Gushy gushy.
I mean, I had to get a gushing offhand too. That was like the only, like I said, BOE's carried my gear. Like like literally, I had BOE haste boots and gushing wound offhand, and that's it.
Yeah, the mages are like, whoa, give me all the mastery stuff, and the warlocks are like, yeah, all the expedient stuff, that's mine. And there's just some gushers sitting there, and it's like, sure, I'll take the literal best offhand if you want to pass on it.
I
That's
mean,
great.
do you think Expedient's going to be played by us for pretty much the rest of the cycle? If you have the option?
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna expedience. I think at rank 3, it's only 20 corruption,
Yeah,
right?
still in a high corruption budget. So
Yeah, well, I think what's actually going to be played with us the rest of the cycle, once like our corruption budget goes up, is Void Ritual. Void Ritual's now like
Yeah.
next week. Next week it's going to be competing like right around the same like corruption value as Expedient, but it's just much higher. Like a T3 is 66 corrupt.
Yeah, it's just easier
So
to get a lot of it.
easier to just load yourself up, and then you'll run like one of those, and as your budget gets bigger, maybe put in like a second one, but in the meantime you're going to want to fill it with like any gushing or expedient pieces that you have, any of the lower stuff, so that you can stay in that nice, staying in the zone between 25 and 40 is the goal. Thing from beyond fucking can suck my dick. I hate that guy.
I
And I
mean,
hate
that
I hate the
guy.
eyeball getting bigger. I hate all of it.
Oh
I
yeah.
hate corruption so much, like with a passion. I hate corruption, but then you have to be above 25 because like 2 of our best pieces have Heart of Darkness on them, and the Heart of Darkness is literally just you're equipping an Arcano Crystal.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I
All,
think it's like
all
the
of our
same
other
value.
traits suck.
Yeah, I think it's also like the same values like Swirling Sands, in terms of Azurite traits. So that's actually really good. Heart of Darkness is rather. Sor, how is your corruption currently?
And now it's okay.
Oh, is it really now okay?
Yeah, now I have 44% haste baseline, so it's fun. But last week I was using like T3 the like crit proc one before it was buffed
Oh
on
no.
like normal Raytheon pants,
You're fast as fuck,
just because
boy.
I had to fill out my corruption budget so I could use Heart of Darkness. It was really bad. My guy sucked.
Oh god. Yeah, your guy was.
close.
I think the one piece of corruption I looted in like 2 weeks was out of my M plus box, and it was T3 Elite. That's all I got.
That is a shame, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, it reminds me. My 2 pieces were yeah, that Void Ritual piece, and then this week was an Echoing Void piece. It's getting nerfed, so. Woo.
I cleansed the Void Ritual piece that I got. Like I got
Oh, same.
the Xanesh mace, and I cleansed that shit. So now I don't have a Void Ritual mace.
No, I cleansed that one, and I cleansed the ring I got, which was tier 3 Void Ritual. It was one of the Mechagon rings. I wanted to fucking use that, but didn't want that Void Ritual on it.
Exactly. Void Ritual gang was weak as hell. How do you guys feel about them nerfing and buffing stuff. I feel like it's good that they're nerfing and buffing things. I feel like the timing on it was really bad, and the fact that they only gave you 24 hours notice was also not great. But the fact that they came back and were like, all right, next week it's going to be done, I feel like that was a little bit more reasonable, just because you have time to not have terrible gear.
I think it's honestly like, I mean, I'm not happy that the fact that they have to make massive changes to the corruptions, because like they didn't balance it at all. They didn't let it get tested. It was like pretty obvious that there's this huge outliers, and they let it go live, and then like 3 weeks into
Yeah.
the patch, they have to make these changes that basically, like, when you buff something by like 100%, and it's something that you would just cleanse on site, and now it's like decent. It's just like a terrible feeling for sure.
Oh yeah, no, definitely something that you're just auto like you said, cleanse on site, and then you have to be like, wait, I
Yeah, like
cleansed
if
that already.
yeah, if the balance wasn't like as bad as it was, then like, I mean, even if you looted a piece that like maybe not be the best, you'd still want to keep it around just in case. But like just in Void Ritual's case, that was just insta cleanse, and now they're buffing it by double, and it's just really dumb. I mean, obviously they shouldn't not buff it, but it shouldn't have been in that situation. And I think like, I mean, I obviously they already said they won't, but like, it's kind of annoying to have to get those pieces again.
I do agree with that. It is pretty rough, especially since I think I don't know how much Soar test on the PTR, but at least 3 of us tested a significant amount on the PTR with just like Mythic Plus and Horrific Visions and just a bunch of different shit with how the corruption system worked. So we had just a bunch of playtime on the system, and the fact that they let it go live the way it was is kind of weird for all of us, right?
I'm like incredibly confused how we went from a point where the beginning of the system was like some just much less corruption effects, like much less impactful. And I guess maybe that's why they changed it. They added so much like crazy shit. I don't know if you remember like the first couple iterations of this, but it was just like the one outlayer with crit damage, and then everything else was
Oh
just
yeah.
like not very impactful corruptions. And then they come back like 2 iterations later, and you've got fucking Echoing Void and Twilight Devastation and all this like these crazy damage procs. And then you've also got like the 20% expedient and like just a bunch of insane shit. It's like, okay,
Well, for a
why
while
why
there
are you
was
power creeping our gear so much? Like that's super weird. And on top of it, a bunch of it just being boring ass damage procs that have no interaction.
I mean, for a while, just Void Ritual and like Echoing Void and shit was only on like those raid pieces that they dropped baseline on, and then eventually they made almost everything be able to be dropped out of anything in the world, which is, I don't know. I think that would have been okay if they just kind of left it the way it was, right?
Yeah, that's how I feel for sure.
I don't know. It is weird. I think the solution would also just be have every piece of gear drop with the corruption effect on it, and then you have the option to cleanse it. Because then at least you're making decisions as to what gear you're wearing and like what your corruption budget's going to be, as opposed to what it is now.
Yeah, I've heard that idea tossed around by more than just you. I think the having higher accessibility to like all of the pieces would make the system feel a lot better for sure.
I can agree.
Yeah, it's rough. I think accessibility is probably a big part of the problem there. All right, so let's talk about the raid. Hoo, getting into some interesting shit. So, how are you guys feeling about the raid? Soreanan, what do you think the raid was tuned well? Do you have any strong opinions on the raid as a whole that you would like aired out?
There was a raid.
Yeah, the Eternal Palace one. You know, the one that you actually participated
Oh
in.
yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was good. I think it was good. I think yeah, the fights ended up being tuned really well, which is kind of surprising considering no one really knew how insane corruption levels were going to be, especially for
Yeah.
the higher end guilds having more access to it than lower end guilds, and how they would be able to tune it, accounting for that. So I think they ended up tuning it really well for the state that it ended up being.
Do you think that like the end wing bosses ended up being okay? Because obviously like Vexiona was kind of free, but then
Outside of Vexiona, yeah, Vexiona was kind of a joke, but the rest of them, Raden and Il'gynoth were both felt very good fights.
Well, Il'gynoth is now being killed in 15 pulls by guilds.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do either Gape or Sang, you guys have any differing opinions, or are you guys about the same? Felt like it was tuned decently well.
I mean, when we first got there, it was one of those memes where, Blizzard's watching, and as soon as we got access to the wing area, started targeting all the bosses, and someone had a comment that these bosses have no health, and then within an hour, we found that like every boss was like buffed by like 25% in HP or
Oh,
something like
oh
that.
yeah, you guys like pull Rodin once, and then he gains 40 million health.
Yeah,
Dude.
like almost all those bosses. It's
We
kind of hilarious.
came up the elevator after the trash, like after you kill the first 3 bosses, and all of the bosses are targetable at that point. And Trill's just like targeting all of them and calling out all their HP, and we're just like, that's kind of low for like all of them. And then you get there, you pull it once and reset it, and it's just got 25% more health.
Yeah,
Like every single one of them.
Yeah, I think like all the bosses were like pretty well tuned. Obviously, like I think the wing bosses are like appropriate. I mean, sure. I don't know why like Vexiona seems. I guess like in testing the ads just didn't fall over due to the annihilates that much, and now the ads kind of became irrelevant. So it's like just a single target boss that doesn't really do that much. I think that's like why Vexiona is really easy.
Yeah, because the Annihilate
But
just does all the damage to the ads.
yeah, and then like I mean Il'gynoth is a great boss. I think the no dispel strat is like a little. I mean, we thought of that, didn't do it just because we were already like dispelling, and it's kind of a little more safer just in case someone dies. But overall harder. So I mean, like I guess it just you could say that boss is like I still think it's really tuned well, especially the damage check. And then Rodden was just insanely tuned well as well for wing boss.
Ah, yes. How did you guys feel about Rodin, like after the fact with all the Warlock bullshit?
uh, I don't think any of us were in for Rodden,
Correct.
right? Which was unfortunate. Had some guys got some nice loot, but
It's the story of yep.
yeah. I mean, like we could have filled like the orb killing job on that boss. The Moonkin from testing was like top orb damage class, but in the end, once you find, all you need to do is find just enough orb damage, and then what becomes most important is killing that void ad and then boss damage after that. And surviving, which all those classes are good at. The Warlock cheese is like really annoying. The fact that it like would have been fixed if Blizzard saw them doing it, but they didn't because they were asleep is very annoying.
I think it's so
But
stupid that
that's whatever.
I think it's so stupid that boss copped a 5% nerf over what was effectively people exploiting the fight. It's not like an exploit, but it was like definitely a gray
Yeah.
area.
No, for sure. I mean, if they thought it was an exploit, they would have banned them
Oh,
for it. But like,
absolutely.
it clearly like that. I think it was definitely just like a creative game mechanics thing. But
It was
it's
unintended,
still
but
annoying that like our guild did the fight like quote unquote properly and managed to have the DPS to like clear it, and these other guilds like would have been stuck on it for a while if they didn't get a 5% HP nerf the next week.
yeah, that's a weird one. I don't know. I feel like it's strange that it just got a nerf over something that it probably should not have.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Maybe a Blizzard lesson from now on to make sure someone's watching.
Don't put in bosses with 15-second respawn timers. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's like the only thing that they need to do is like 30-second respawn timer. You're good to go.
You're
Sora, how do you feel about the raid as a whole? Pretty happy with the whole thing.
Yeah, thought it was good. Thought it was alright. I think some of the fights are kind of bland, but overall it wasn't bad. N'Zoth was a disappointment, but some of the fights were okay.
Do you guys all think N'Zoth is a disappointment, or is that just a Soreanan opinion?
Let Sang go first. He killed
Alright.
the boss after all.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I always have the more interesting opinions because Oh wait. I mean, I think the boss is like really well tuned. I mean, I think he has like an appropriate end boss, kind of. Like, I think maybe just overusing one phase for way too long in the fight is like a little bit of a letdown, right? Because I felt like, I mean, it was like a nice dance. It was pretty important. Everything you had to do, did a lot of damage. Respectable end boss should be. I think just maybe the lack of the fight being so long, but you're doing like one phase of the boss for like 8 minutes of the encounter. It's like a little boring. But overall, I think it was like a good boss. Obviously, I don't like the position of like K stack, 11 immunities, and that was basically kind of how it went down.
That
So it was
one
like,
is a little weird. How they just let you not lose sanity if you were in immunity during the Thought Harvester cast. That was so strange to me that even was allowed to continue.
It's
yeah,
not even just the sanity, it's the damage that those things did. You have the boss pulsing raid damage at like some points where it goes like, okay, here's evoke, thought harvester soak after that, here's another evoke, or here's
yeah,
another bit of raid damage. It's like, okay, there are not enough like DRs present in your raid to soak that. You need to immune it to survive, not even like the sanity thing. I don't even think sanity was a problem at all. I think they were like extremely generous with the amount of sanity they give you in that fight. As long as you're doing paranoia mostly correctly, you have enough necks to deal with soaking those if you had to.
Yeah.
Like mathematically, they did the math and it's possible to like soak every single one and still kill the fight. It's just not possible from a damage standpoint.
Saying if you human wild charge your target, like your friend, do you lose sanity if you travel through other people?
yeah, you do.
Okay. Because Sora lied to you, I think.
I mean, like, you'd have to do like near instantaneously to ever get it off. Like, because I mean, you like literally have like a quarter second, half second, like after they go out, if you stand on someone else before you take sanity damage.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you just wild charge through a bunch of people, you're gonna take sanity damage per person you run through. So if it's like a ton of people, you just take like 20 sanity damage just instantly.
Mm-hmm. How's the mount off N'Zoth looking? Are you a fan or not really?
Nope,
Not a fan, really?
nope. Just another collecting mount.
Plus
I
one,
mean,
baby.
I'm like really picky when it comes to mounts. It's surprisingly, even though I just collect all of them, like the ones I like are generally either like I don't like squids. Squid mounts can go away. I don't like a lot of mounts like Rim's Head and whatnot. Sure, they're fancy and unique, but they're just like I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about N'Zoth a little bit more since you guys brought that up. So obviously, Sang felt like it was tuned pretty well. I think I would agree in terms of damage. It seemed like it was tuned pretty well, especially towards the end. How do you guys feel about the mythic only phase, Soreanan? Like, obviously, that it was said to be like a mythic only phase and supposed to be some secret phase where something happens, and like, of course, you think back and you think of like Gul'dan as like the most recent one of those, or like Argus, where it's like this epic thing where the boss dies at the end, right? But for N'Zoth, the secret phase was kind of, to me, it was lackluster. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was just an intermission. Like you said, like every other mythic phase was like the end of the encounter before this one, so it's very weird to have a middle, just like the middle of P2 is a mythic phase, and then you come back, and then you just go back to doing P2, and nothing. As well as the mythic phase is also just really simple and was really just a way they made it so you have to get rid of your necks. Like we did the entire mythic phase on our second try.
Mm-hmm.
I expected it to be a lot more, and I think that's kind of what a lot of the confusion with N'Zoth ended up being was we just expected the fight to have more to it.
I honestly think this would have been a pretty sick fight from a design perspective if the mythic phase were impactful. Like, honestly, because it was tuned really well. Like, if they could have made it like, if they could have made the mythic phase do more, it would have been a little bit cooler.
I think what would have been a nice bit would to have like Instead of like just coming back to phase 2, you just like come back to a new version of N'Zoth, right? Like continues the mythic phase. Like you have that intermission, and then you come back and he starts casting like completely different abilities.
So whenever you
That's like
say a new version of Zoth, you mean he has legs and he's dangling dressed to Gath
no, it
between
doesn't
his.
have to be. Yeah, no,
Eh,
nice memes, but like in actuality, like anything new or different would have been nice. Other than again, the fight is so long, and just to have you doing phase 2 for like 8 minutes is just ridiculous.
I would agree.
Like they could
Yeah.
have split it up to being something else at least in that last bit of the fight.
Gape, how does it feel as an end expansion boss? Like, obviously, for point of reference, there's some like Argus, Archimond, Blackwing, or Deathwing. What, Blackwing?
There's-
Deathwing.
okay, well, I didn't play Deathwing, but I don't think anyone I know that played liked that
Yeah.
tentacle monster that wasn't actually Deathwing encounter. I don't know, every end boss that I've done compared to this is probably the worst one. If I have to compare this to Garrosh, Archimond, and Argus, like this is definitely the worst of those 4.
Just worst feeling.
Worst like in terms of like the encounter being interesting.
Sure.
This encounter is like, it's already been said, but it's just a 2-phase encounter with a secret intermission phase. Like that's so incredibly disappointing from a like raid mechanic perspective. Feels like it's definitely missing a phase, like something completely different that should have happened after that heart phase, not just repeating phase, but with less space.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. It's kind of weird. If it were like middle of expansion, I feel like this probably would have been a sicker boss too. But I think since it was like end of expansion, there was some hype around a secret mythic phase. It was just a little bit lackluster as what it was presented, right?
Yeah, it also could have been completely fine if the fight wasn't like so ridiculously long. I think if the fight just goes, phase 1, you do the 2 Psychuses, and then you go into phase 2, you fight a bunch of Thought Harvesters, maybe like the shit on the ground like more aggressively expands so that you end up using the whole arena.
Mm-hmm.
Or like instead of it being 2 separate phase 2s that are like fucking 4 minutes each or whatever it is, it's just one that's like 6 minutes.
But it's a huge burn, and the
And
Magni
then you
portal
go
is.
down. Yeah, then
Yeah.
you go down into the heart phase, like while your whole like room is messed up and there's no room to do anything, and you get that crazy like, oh my god, the fight needs to end here, or we're fucked sort of thing. And then the ad doesn't take 2 tries to beat in the heart phase, then that'd be really cool. But
Yeah.
it's not, so whatever.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just pacing. I think I agree. All right, so let's talk about Moonkin in the raid. So, do you think it's like good, bad, underrated, overrated? What were like the expectations going into the raid? Saying you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the class stand like alone by itself, like the thing is it's definitely like, really. I think there's definitely corruption scaling that just throws off class balance. So like if you think like within without it, it's like almost two different ways to look at class balance.
Sure.
But like if you like, I mean, it's definitely like one of the best single target. Uh, for sure. And like even with corruption, it's like still pretty up there. Obviously, I think like mages just destroy everything when it comes to just being able to do everything and just their scaling with corruption, which is insane.
Dude, the fact that Mage didn't catch a nerf coming into this tier is so weird to me.
Yeah. But overall through the raid, like Moonkin's pretty solid on every boss. Their AoE is completely garbage, but still there's not really like a fight that needs just heavy AoE all the time. I mean, sure, there are some places that you can just do that, like Hive Mind and Carapace potentially, but it's completely unnecessary. I think obviously there's classes that can just do almost just as much single target as Moonkin and just massively cleave AoE, which is why you see a lot of like just like we don't get in on Carapace really easily. But it's overall it's like pretty good throughout the raid. I
I,
just think mages are overshadowing it, so
I,
it's
I
just
think I think mages and hunters and warlocks are really good right now, and Moonkin is just it fills a niche specifically that is fairly strong, but it doesn't get free cleave like those other classes, or have like a very strong niche like warlock does.
yeah, that's
Yo,
basically what I agree with.
Yeah.
anyone else how like how warlocks are just gonna be fine but not overpowered before the tier, and then like 2 days before the tier they're just like, just kidding, here you go. All of your Azrite has the best. Woo!
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Destro
Eh.
Destro was going to have bad traits from the raid, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they might have actually been a class that was human instead of this raid where they're just like they have the typical like warlock strengths, right? Where Soul Leech just gives them an absolute like ridiculous amount of tankiness. They have Wall, which is like a 3-minute cooldown, but like a huge DR, so they can live like a big scary hit. Even like their like Imp Dispel ended up being useful on like Il'gynoth. I don't know.
Oh
They
yeah,
have
that is true. I forgot about that actually.
feels like they have better. The only thing that's like maybe worse, but not even worse, because they can just play Affliction, is like their single target, and then they're just better at 2-target cleave. They're better at surviving. They bring more raid utility. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think it's not that Moonkin's best, that it just gets overshadowed by other classes that fill better niches.
Yeah, being tanky and doing big damage. I don't know if I'd call that a niche. That's just being good.
Saying you good over there?
Yeah, you know.
Is that harassment?
Yep.
So what do you think the best fights for Moonkin are this tier? Probably like Drestagath, Il'gynoth.
I mean, like in terms of damage, I mean, again, I think like the best for me. That's like an interesting thing. Like honestly, just like I would think like Vexiona and Rodden are like really good for them. And but like that's just in terms of like certain points of fight. Like again, I think it just feels like that Moonkin isn't the best at any encounter just because of those free cleaving classes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, like I think if you're like, I mean, if you're just looking at the strengths of the class and being a single target, it's gonna be Vexiona, Rodden. Uh, I mean Il'gynoth from her perspective, and even N'Zoth because boss damage is really important with all the. They're like good at that fight for what they do, but obviously not the best classes still.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. What are the worst fights for Moonkin? Do you think any of them are just like so
Mine.
do not bring? Yeah, Hive Mind.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think I
it'd
think
be Hive Mind. Probably Carapace is like down there.
Sore, you have any opinion?
Yeah. Carapace. Hive Mind.
Therapist Hive Mind.
It's not good.
So let's talk about N'Zoth specifically. Does Moonkin really have a place on the encounter? I know we saw Sang get subbed in for a Warlock pretty late into the progression on the fight after being in for a little while, then getting taken out. So obviously it's like it doesn't have immunity, but it's a ranged DPS with decently high boss damage. Even though Sang did less damage than the tanks, but that's like because he didn't do a Psychus phase, so it's hard to even gauge. And has good
Yeah, that's just overall damage though.
Oh, yeah.
His boss damage was good. He was like 4th on boss damage.
Yeah, good mobility, good survivability, and then high boss damage. Do you think Moonkin really has a place on the fight though?
I mean, essentially, if it's like ever a choice, mage versus Moonkin, but probably not. But if it's like, I mean, yeah, it's definitely got a place for it. It's like essentially you have so many immunity slots that, and then you have basically choices between either priest, warlock, or druid. And essentially, like priest does a little more ad damage, less boss damage. Warlock will do more ad damage, less boss damage. And Moonkin of the three will probably do the most boss damage, but less ad damage.
Yeah.
And so it's like what you need. If you need to squeeze out a little more damage and you already have all your immune classes in, yeah, Moonkin definitely has a spot.
How was Vision lining up on that fight? Did it line up
I
well?
mean, no, it's fucking awful like usual. But I mean, the amount of times I've literally gotten vision procs during Mind Grasp or while I have to travel for them and make huge movements and whatnot, or during the fucking intermission going into the heart chamber. It's, it's up there. But
I mean, mobility on that fight looked pretty sick, right? Just being the fact that it's also outdoors, so you can travel wild charge.
yeah,
We saw that Raptor form.
he did. Yeah, it has some pieces and a little bit of fun and movement.
Do you think it's a multi-Moonkin encounter? Gape, Soreanan? Either of you guys think it's like it will ever warrant bringing multiple druids in on that fight?
If you fill your immunity quota, sure. I think it's
Yep.
fine. It's getting loud in here. Sorry if you hear any of that. Yeah, I don't know. Now is here. Atlas is screaming. You know how it is. But yeah, though, like if you have all the immunities you need in, I think Moonkin's completely fine. Like Sang's damage was low overall, but that's because he didn't get to do a Psychus phase.
Yeah.
Anyone's damage, like overall, is going to be low who isn't in the Psychus phase. It's all about hitting like the different thresholds, I guess. Like you need enough ad damage, but just enough. And once you have that ad damage, you stop caring completely. So like, yeah, Moonkin doesn't do the best like random 3-target cleave while the Thought Harvesters are up, but if you have enough like warlocks, enough mages to passively burn them down, then it's fine. You just let Moonkin come in and pump the boss.
Yeah. Did you consider running the Azshara weapon on N'Zoth Sang? Because obviously that's a pretty healing intensive fight.
Yeah, I mean, the thought about it, but it seemed like damage was like way too relevant to like DPS was just required.
Yeah.
It's like a huge damage loss. Like, and you'd use it like definitely would have been really good to use like on some of those evoke combos. But I think it was more of like the healers were able to figure it out, and it wasn't necessary at all, and definitely not worth the damage loss. So
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I put tank damage Sang in here, but that's only because 1 corruption and 2 no Psychus phase. Obviously that was a joke though.
oh yeah, no, I mean the only reason I was in over Gape was because I had previously had a couple pulls on the boss. Like that was literally like definitely would have. It was like a battle of like they're already like 250 pulls in, and you want to get someone that will do a little less damage, but like you'll spend less pulls, like maybe trying to figure stuff out. Or, I don't know. Like that was, I think, the argument. It was just because I had a couple
Yeah.
pulls on the boss already.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I feel that.
I said the same thing because we have like different channels in Discord talking about like the bosses, and in the N'Zoth channel we were talking about okay, like a Moonkin coming in, like who should it be? And I'm like, well, it should obviously be Sang. Like he's done over 100 pulls on this boss. Even if I'm a little more geared, and even if I like am confident that I can learn quickly, Sang doesn't need to learn. He already knows. So that's almost always going to be better. If it was like 100 pulls in and they figured that they need more boss damage sub in a Moonkin, then it would have been like, yeah, bring the guy who does more damage, who has better gear. But sorry, not to say I do more damage than saying his gear just sucks compared to mine. But
Yes.
like, yeah, my
Yes.
gear's stupid good. But yeah, we're over 200 pulls in, like on the cusp of a kill, like literally a day away. It's like, yeah, Sang should go in absolutely.
Oh no, I definitely see that. Why do you think you stayed out and like just killed tentacles the whole entire time as opposed to doing a Psychus phase?
I mean, essentially, I think the Psychus group's already worked out, and you just sub in someone that like that wasn't doing it already with someone that isn't doing it, and it's fine anyways. Like if I mean sure, originally like I was doing like second Psychus phase and like cooldowns would line up like pretty well. Like Moonkin will look really good on overall. Like trust me, like top if you get to do like the second Psychus especially, just because it just lines up really well that you cool down on pull the first burn on the boss and then the second Psychus. But literally I was brought into the raid and my role was to just do as much boss damage as possible. So I'm holding both my cooldowns later on in the fight for when the boss is attackable,
Yeah.
and that's it. So I'm getting 2 uses of my CDs in the first phase 2, and then my CDs are coming up again for the third or for the second time we're in phase 2. And basically all of my CDs are just dedicated fully. Like I'm actually getting, yeah, you get 4 cooldowns on the boss in phase 2, and that's the only spot you're using your CDs. So
Yeah, I'm sure you do actually pretty good boss damage there at the end too, with the 25%
yeah,
damage buff and everything.
yeah, it was just unfortunate that of course I had a vision proc going into that and had like 20 seconds left of my CD when the boss died. But happened.
That's
I
how
have
it.
the worst vision procs, man. I have garbage ones.
Well, just hope that your streaking stars doesn't hit the ads the whole entire time.
It probably is, but
That's always gonna be something that happens. So I think that's gonna be it for us today. Soreanan, anything you'd like to say?
I hate corruption.
Really?
It's not fun. You
Yeah,
don't have any.
it's probably because of it that you didn't get as much play.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably. Gape, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. Go limit. Woo!
Would you like to dedicate this one
won.
to USA?
Yeah, yeah. USA, USA. Oh, we fucking owned this tier. And it was great to be a part of it, even though I wasn't in on the last boss. It's fine. 30-man roster vibes. Need 19 immunity vibes. It's fine though. It was a great tier, and I enjoyed it every step of the way. Woo!
Tang, anything?
Nah, this shit sucks.
All right. On that note, I think we're gonna.
I mean, of all the tiers it does, it's definitely the least fun. But I mean, it's still fun overall, just because, and especially just fun just to get the the world first. But could have been in a better setting. Still happy. Definitely like the experience.
You gonna cop a Herman Miller chair?
I mean, I'm hoping I get back and I have my chair promised from the other event, but I just want a chair.
I have no rebuttal.
These chairs are pretty nice.
These chairs are nice.
All right, guys. I think that's gonna be it. That'll be this month's Moonkin Monthly. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your evening. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Congratulations on World First. You guys fucking owned.
Gang shit.
Gang shit. Later, guys.